Well, some breaking news coming in at this point in time. The Supreme Court has hauled up the Indian Army and the centre for going soft on army officers. The Supreme Court has said that this case shocks our conscience. The army and the centre have been hauled up for going light on army officers who illegally sell weapons. The army and the centre have been hauled up for going light on army officers who illegally have been found selling weapons. The Supreme Court says that the case has shocked the conscience of the Apex Court. My colleague Jaskirat Singh Bawa is now joining me live for more on this story. Jaskirat, the Supreme Court has asked the centre to explain why the army is letting off officers guilty of illegal arms sales. The Supreme Court believes that the army officers guilty have been let off very lightly. Take us through the latest.
Well, that's good. This is a very old petition. It has come up in the Supreme Court time and again over the past few years. It emanates from that case in Rajasthan where several officers were found to be involved in sales of multiple weapons. And a court of inquiry did take place. However, the punishment ranged from a 500 rupee fine to a loss of seniority and, of course, even a reprimand on the service record. However, the petitioner says that if you liken this or equivalent case in civilian scenario, the punishment would have been much harsher. The Supreme Court was not impressed with the punishment that had taken place. They were also wondering whether this is an isolated incident or this is a case which is across the country where service officers are in fact involved in their arms at a higher rate in the civilian market without the permission from the concerned authorities, namely the COD in Jabalpur, even if they are in fact acquiring more weapons and selling them in the civilian market. So they are very interested in listening to this case. They have asked the army and the centre to come back with a response in about 2 weeks' time. One of the observations was very harsh when they said that you dismiss a cadet for an entire service for merely a drunken brawl, but over here there are major generals and brigadiers involved in illegal sale of arms. What is the disciplinary action being taken in these cases?
Well, absolutely. The army, in fact, has been giving erring officers punishments only ranging from 500 rupees to a simple reprimand. Jaskirat, what is likely to happen now with this petition that is being heard with the Supreme Court? What is the action that is likely to be initiated after this petition?
There are two specific questions being asked to the centre. To come back with a response on whether in these particular cases, is it possible to give a harsher punishment other than this just a 500 rupee fine or a reprimand or a loss of seniority. To that, the Attorney General has responded in the initial form saying that would involve punishing a person twice for the same crime, which technically speaking is against the fundamental right. However, a proper response has been sought, which will be coming in 2 weeks. Apart from that, the Supreme Court is also seeking whether this can be expanded to the other 8 commands. There are a total of 9 commands of the Indian Army in this country, and the Supreme Court wants to know whether the similar pattern is being followed in the other 8 commands as well.
Well, absolutely. The Supreme Court has asked what the status of such cases is in the other 8 commands. A petition in the Supreme Court alleged that serving and retired army officers were involved in illegal sale of arms. Jaskirat, also, is there any specific evidence? Has there been any investigation that has held officers guilty? Are there any impending cases that are likely to be impacted by this observation of the Supreme Court?
Well, most of these observations actually came up because of investigations that have already taken place. It is the fact that these officers either admitted to their guilt, saying that they were not aware of the rules, or were found guilty by the court of inquiry. They were found guilty and there was action taking place, but the Supreme Court was not satisfied with the severity of the action taking place. They think that the manner in which offense that has been committed perhaps requires a harsher punishment.
Absolutely.
Now, the case has come up for hearing for the first time in almost a year now. Which is why this government, which is a new government, will also have to look into the background and perhaps come back with a coherent response.
Absolutely. Jaskirat, stay on with me. Strategic Affairs Editor Gaurav Sawant is also joining me live for more on this story. Gaurav, if you could just take us through how the government plans to respond to the observations of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court coming out and clearly saying that this is something that has shocked the conscience of the Apex Court, also calling punishments that have been meted out in these cases as pittance and an eyewash.
This is an extremely serious case, and the army has been dragging its feet. This incident came to light for the first time in 2007, and the Supreme Court has been telling the army to take strict action. In 2011 and 12, the army was asked to take action, and subsequently is just a 500 rupee fine or a simple reprimand for senior officers. So this time, with the Supreme Court saying that they are shocked by what the army has done, the army will be compelled to take a more stringent line on this. But you know, the army's point of view on this is that these are non-service pattern weapons. They are not military grade weapons, and it's a soldier's entitlement to have a weapon and sell it. But the Supreme Court has come out with guidelines saying that they can only be sold once they've got clearance from the Central Ordnance Depot. That's point 1. And point 2, they should not get into wrong hands. So there would have to be a policy on this matter now.
Well, absolutely. Also, Gaurav, the Supreme Court coming out and saying that the army is supposed to be a disciplined force, but here are officers involved in illegal arms sales. So where really is the discipline? So this is clearly the Supreme Court, in fact, holding up not just the centre but also the armed forces.
The problem is that the army has not taken this case with the seriousness that it deserves to be taken with. They have tried to brush it under the carpet, because this is more of a norm in the army that officers acquire weapons at a very cheap price from Central Ordnance Depot and then sell it out in the market for a profit. And in the past, the army did contemplate stopping this practice, but given, as the Supreme Court also pointed out, that there are several colonels, brigadiers and generals who are guilty of this, not just in the army, but also senior police officers, senior Indian Administrative Services officers. They've all been involved in buying weapons and ammunition at a lower price and selling it at a higher price in the market. And this practice needs to stop, because a lot of these weapons, according to police sources, are getting into wrong hands. Not just criminals, but there is fear they could get into the hands of terrorists and anti-national elements.
Right, absolutely. Here is a very grave situation at hand. The Supreme Court, of course, coming out and asking the centre to explain why the army is letting off officers guilty of illegal arms sales so lightly in the Southwestern Command. Has also asked what the status of such cases is in the other 8 commands. We're going to continue to track developments on this story very closely. Thanks to Jaskirat Singh Bava and Gaurav Sawant for joining me with that live report.